The story of Marie Curie. A long time ago, in 1867, a baby girl named Maria Sklodowska was born in Warsaw, Poland. Everyone called her Mania when she was little. Mania grew up in a house filled with books and love for learning. Her parents were teachers who believed that education was very important, even for girls, which was not common at the time. Mania had 3 sisters and 1 brother, and they all loved to read and explore new ideas together. Mania was a curious and bright child. She loved asking questions about how things worked. At school, she was the best in her class, especially in math and science. Her teachers noticed how smart she was and encouraged her to keep learning. But growing up in Poland was hard because her country was under Russian control. Polish people couldn't speak their language freely, and schools didn't teach many subjects. When Mania was only 10 years old, something very sad happened. Her mother passed away from an illness called tuberculosis. Mania was heartbroken, but she decided to honor her mother by working hard in school. She promised herself that she would do something special with her life. As Mania grew older, she dreamed of going to college. But in Poland at that time, girls were not allowed to attend universities. This made her very sad. Mania didn't give up though. She and her sister Bronislava made a plan. They decided to help each other achieve their dreams. Mania worked as a tutor to earn money so her sister could go to medical school in Paris. Later, Bronislava would help Mania go to school too. For years, Mania worked hard, teaching children during the day and studying by herself at night. She learned science, math, and languages on her own. She never gave up on her dream of learning more. Finally, when Mania was 24 years old, her sister kept her promise. Mania saved enough money to move to Paris, where she could study at the famous Sorbonne University. In Paris, Mania changed her name to Marie to sound more French. Life in Paris was not easy for her. She didn't have much money, so she lived in a tiny room and often skipped meals to save money. The winters were cold, and she didn't have warm clothes. But Marie was determined. She worked harder than anyone else, studying late into the night. Her hard work paid off, and she earned degrees in physics and math, graduating at the top of her class. While in Paris, Marie met a kind and brilliant scientist named Pierre Curie. Pierre was impressed by Marie's intelligence and passion for science. They fell in love and got married. Together, they began working on scientific experiments in a small, simple lab. They wanted to understand a strange new energy called radioactivity, which had been discovered recently. Marie and Pierre studied a rock called uranium. They found out that it gave off energy all by itself. Marie thought there might be other materials like uranium, so she began studying more rocks. After years of hard work, she discovered 2 new elements: polonium, named after her home country of Poland, and radium. These discoveries were amazing and helped scientists understand the world in new ways. The work was very difficult. Marie and Pierre spent hours in their lab, crushing rocks and separating tiny bits of material. The process was slow, and they didn't have much money for better equipment. Their lab was cold, and the work made their hands ache. But Marie loved science and believed her work could help the world. In 1903, something incredible happened. Marie and Pierre, along with another scientist, won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on radioactivity. Marie became the first woman ever to win a Nobel Prize. She was so proud, but she stayed humble and kept working hard. A few years later, tragedy struck. Pierre died in a terrible accident. Marie was devastated, but she decided to continue their work to honor his memory. She became the first woman to teach at the Sorbonne, taking over Pierre's position. Marie worked tirelessly, even as she raised their two daughters, Irene and Eve. In 1911, Marie won another Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, for discovering radium and polonium. She was the first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes, a record that still inspires people today. Her discoveries changed the world and opened new doors in science and medicine. During World War I, Marie wanted to help soldiers who were hurt in the war. She used her knowledge of science to create mobile X-ray machines. These machines helped doctors see inside the bodies of injured soldiers to find broken bones and wounds. Marie traveled to battlefields to teach nurses how to use the machines. She worked tirelessly to save lives, even though it was dangerous. Marie's work with radium also helped doctors find new ways to treat cancer. She showed the world that science could make life better for everyone. But working with radioactive materials affected Marie's health. She became very sick later in life because of her exposure to radiation. Marie Curie passed away in 1934, but her legacy lives on. Her discoveries changed the world, and she showed everyone that women could achieve great things in science. She inspired her daughter Irene, who became a scientist and won a Nobel Prize too. Marie Curie's story teaches us about the power of hard work, determination, and curiosity. She overcame many challenges to follow her dreams, and her work continues to help people around the world. Today, Marie is remembered as one of the greatest scientists in history, and her life reminds us to never stop learning and exploring.